Hello and welcome to Fully Charged. This week I'm having a test drive of the newly released VolksWagen E-Up. The VolksWagen E-Up exclamation mark is a lovely little car. It's the electric version of the already popular petrol-powered Up exclamation mark. It's a small, as they say, city car, but it feels nice and roomy inside. Now, very often with electric versions of an existing petrol or diesel car, there are loads of compromises. The battery pack has to be shoved into gaps not designed for it, and it's all a bit awkward and lumpy. But VolksWagen have been rather clever about it. The Up was designed from the outset to be both a petrol and electric car, which means there is no compromise in interior space. It has a 60 kilowatt motor, which will push the E-Up exclamation mark from 0 to 60 in 12.4 seconds, which is just a bit quicker than the most powerful petrol version, which does 0 to 60 in 13.4 seconds. Yes, that extra second is vitally important to my masculinity.
Oh, there it goes. Oh, so foot on the brake, turn the key, and then I've got to wait for everything to get ready. It's ready. So I'm just touching my car info.
Caution. The next charging station or the home address is out of range.
Okay.
86 miles.
Okay, yeah, okay. So what have we got? We've got 86 miles range, but anyway, we're not worrying about that now. So, and it's got the same voice. I think that's the same man. I've actually met him. The man who does the British Siri voice on the iPhone is the same as this sat-nav voice, which is quite disturbing. So then it's got a fairly standard gear lever that you put into drive. It's like an automatic gear lever, and then the handbrake's off on my foot. I'm just going to adjust my seating position to a slightly more comfortable posture for me. I may now adjust my steering wheel. Oh no, it was perfect before. My bad. Oh, and it just moves. That's very nice. Electric windows. Oh. Gosh, it's nice. It is a nice car to drive already. I've driven 200 meters and I'm already a fan. The throttle response is really instantaneous. There's no sort of put your foot down and then or put your foot down a bit and then it's just boom, straight away like that. The wheels spun at that moment, so it's got plenty of oomph. So, I mean, Volkswagen are claiming this vehicle has, you know, it's the same as all of them, roughly 100-mile range, depending on your driving style. I'm currently being told I've got 85 miles, and it's not quite full, but it's nearly full. It has a much smaller battery than the Nissan Leaf. The Nissan Leaf is 24 kilowatt hours, this is 18 kilowatt hours, but of course the car is much smaller too, so it doesn't having to haul quite as much stuff. It's just so easy to keep it going. Now I'm looking at the amount of power I'm using. It's very little. What are we doing now? We're doing 60 miles an hour without any effort at all. I mean, it just trundled along without any trouble. So this is a 70 mile an hour limit. Well, I'm now doing 70, and I didn't even notice. I mean, absolutely no trouble whatsoever. The standard petrol model of the Volkswagen Up, the price range for that is between £8,000 and about £12,000. And for the same gubbins that you've got in this car, so the sat-nav, the media centre, the air conditioning, the seats, all that stuff, to get the same, that is about 11,000 quid. Well, this version, the electric version, is about 19,000, so considerably more expensive. And it's a challenge, as always, as these cars always are, because how far would you have to drive before the E-Up was cheaper than the petrol car? And the thing is that gap is reducing all the time, so I'm guessing now I'm going to do some mental maths as I drive along the motorway, which is about the most stupid thing you can do, it's going to be about 30,000 miles. So once you've driven this car 30,000 miles, it will be cheaper than the cheapest VW Up petrol version, because of the amount you spend on petrol and on maintenance, which is another thing that's very important to remember. These cars are incredibly low maintenance. There's so little mechanical stuff that can go wrong. You know, anything that can go wrong in any car, like wheels, bearings, brakes, that's exactly the same as on any vehicle. But the engine has one moving part, the most simple, straightforward gearbox. It's very small, it's very light. There's virtually nothing that can go wrong with it. And so that calculation has to be taken into account. So the running costs of this car will be mind-numbingly small. If you have somewhere at home that you can plug this in overnight, and you charge it overnight, and you charge it on off-peak electricity, the running costs are around, I would say, under a penny a mile. Now the running cost for a VWR, which is a very fuel efficient, super efficient little petrol car with a very modern petrol engine that's very efficient, will cost you between 10 and 15 pence a mile. And that's cheap for a petrol car, that's really good. And so you can then work out how many miles you've got to do. You just add up the miles and you add up the money and you work it out. So you're going to spend thousands of pounds on fuel to cover 30,000 miles, and you're going to spend a few hundred on electricity to cover 30,000 miles in this. And that's, you know, that's one argument. It's one of many arguments. There's also the road tax, the maintenance. If you're living in a big city that has a congestion charge, you don't usually pay the congestion charge. You certainly don't in London in one of these. So I'm in eco mode at the moment, which means you're restricted on the amount of power that you can get. But if you need it, like there, I can floor it, and then it goes all the way up to 11. I'm so lucky to get going all these. I do appreciate it. I want you to know that I don't just sort of go in these cars and go all sort of cynical and go, oh, yeah, it's just another electric. I mean, this is fantastic. This is such a nice car to drive. I've got this thing, I admit it. I drove Volkswagens for a long time. As I mentioned in earlier episodes when I drove the XL1, I've owned just about every type of Volkswagen Golf that's ever been made, and there is something about them. There's something about their solidity on the road and the crispness of their design and the kind of solidity of their functioning. It's just not a wobbly car, and this has got that in bucketfuls. This is very much a Volkswagen. I'm going to try the engine braking now. Oh, hello. Yes, now it's working. And where do I go? Straight on. Oh my God, it stops you. Oh fuck, what have I done? Gone into neutral. Woohoo! That takes some getting used to. That is bloody, I'm sorry ladies and gentlemen, that is bloody extraordinary. The engine braking is nothing short of legendary. That, I'm not touching the brakes, and I'm slowing down. It's like weird feeling. So this car, that's interesting. So certainly I'm just going through the cars I know well. The Leaf, the i3, I think, the Renault Zoe, will all have an element of regenerative braking when you take your foot off the throttle. I don't know what I'm coming to up here. 30, I'm going too fast. I'm breaking the speed limit in an electric car. In this car, like now, I've got my foot off the throttle and it's not using any electricity, but it's also not regeneratively braking. It's just coasting. So now we're just coasting along. No throttle whatsoever. I can't put the regen braking on because there's someone behind me. And I don't know if the brake lights come on when I put it on. I'm sure they will because it is quite violent. All you have to do is knock the gear stick back once, and that puts on the braking, and then knock it back again, and that sends it back to normal. And what I keep doing is putting it on once, and the regen braking is awesome, and then I push the gear lever forward, which puts the car into neutral, which can be alarming. So I'm coming up to a 30-mile-an-hour zone. I'm going to use regen braking to slow myself down. I'm doing 55. It really feels like I'm putting the brakes on. Now I'm doing 30. There we go. I did not touch the brakes. Nice, I like that. Now I'm going to explain something which I've had explained to me in great detail by the Volkswagen people. The Yorkshire term "eop" is nothing to do with this car, and it is also "eop," not "e-up." Now, there's been some arguments put forward to me that are very convincing, because I don't know that in German you pronounce the letter E, in which case it would sound more like a German saying this car would say "e-up." "E-up. Das ist der E-up." I wonder if they really would. And so the argument is that this is the perfect car for Yorkshire because because it sounds like "e-up." Whenever I mention "e-up" on Twitter, I'll get Well, actually, this morning I got about 60 tweets going, I've gone up to Ilkley Bar Tat in me up. See, it didn't work then. I've gone to Ilkley Bar Tat in me up. No, it's not an A-up, it's an E-up. Get it right. I didn't get the impression that the Volkswagen PR people were particularly concerned about that particular joke. The E-up. E-up? Ah, no, if you say it like that, it is the perfect car for Yorkshire. E-up. E-up. But you're saying A, not E. E-up. Now, if you do it like that, I'm just practicing now. E-up. E-up? E-up, lad. E-up, lad. It's still an A. To me, it's an A. And I've got a good ear. I've been told that by accent coaches. I have a good ear. I might not be very good at accents, but I've got a good ear, and I can hear those little subtleties. E-up. E-up, lad. No, that's not right. A-up. A-up is right. So if it was an A-up, if this was an atomic version of the Volkswagen Up, and it was called the A-up, A-up, then I'm with you. It's a Yorkshire car. I drive an atomic car, it's called the A-up. There you go, that works. I drive an electric car, it's called the E-up. It doesn't, so what? Get over it, just drive it. When are we going to get atomic cars? I want a nuclear-powered Volkswagen. Oh, shite. And while I've been doing that, I've gone the wrong f***ing way.
Once I'd stopped effing and jeffing, I found my way back to Milton Keynes, where I decided to have a go at charging the car. Now, it didn't need charging. I had another 50 miles at least left of range, but I just like plugging things in. The E-up exclamation mark can be charged from a 13-amp socket like your fridge plugs into, or a 16 or 32-amp dedicated socket like the one I'm using here, or a DC rapid charger, which are appearing all over the place. Just in case you're anxious about it, both ends of the wire are locked into place during charging. No one can pinch your wire or unplug you. So the E-up exclamation mark is a great little car, nippy, stable, easy to drive, comfortable and very solid. I've never awarded stars on fully charged before, but if I did, the VW E-up exclamation mark would get a great big handful.
Let's go, let's go.